Alright, so we're moving right along. If you remember in the last video, we had created this game loop or rolling loop where we rolled the dice. And then we printed out, you rolled, and then the value of each dice, and then gave them their current total. And it looped through this until we got to a winning score of 100. And we set that up here at the top. So that we can compare it later on in our code. So this is one of the first places that we're going to compare this at. And in this loop, we basically bring in the score from whatever player we're on. Because remember, in the player's loop, we're getting their name and their score on each loop. All right, and then we take that, whatever the score is, which they're going to start with 0, and we see if that is less than win score, which we've set to 100, because that's what it said to do in the instructions in the first video. All right, so if it is, we run through the code, whatever the code is here. In this case, rolling the dice and getting random numbers between 1 and 6. Then we do whatever else in here, and then at the end, as long as we haven't been kicked out of the loop for any reason, we add the value of die 1 and die 2 to the value of k. So we do that by doing this plus equals. Alright, so pretty simple. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to check to see how many dice we have. Remember, at the top we ask how many dice do you want to play with, and we give them a value to enter of 1 or 2. So those are the only two numbers that they're going to give us, or should give us, because it's not going to let them out of that loop until they give us one of those two numbers. Alright, we store that in num underscore dice. So we're back down here, and like I said, we're going to check that, and the way you check that is with a condition statement or an if else. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and type mine in. If you want, go ahead and pause this video, see if you can figure it out on your own, and then continue on, and we'll see if we come up with the same thing. Alright, so you should have come up with something that looks something similar to this, alright? If you didn't, let's go through it with me, and I'll explain what I've done here. Basically, when you come into this for loop, regardless, you're going to roll at least that first dice. So I went ahead and rolled that. Then I checked to see if num dice equals 2. And don't forget, 2 equal signs to compare. Alright, if you do 1 equal sign, you're basically saying num dice equals 2, and that would change the value of num dice. Alright, so if it does, we go in here, we roll die 2, and then we print out the same thing that we did at the end of the last video. You rolled a, and then we give them the value of die 1 and a, and then the value of die 2. And then we move on out of this if else, because if it does that, it runs that and then jumps out of there. If it doesn't do that, then it goes down to the else statement. So if it doesn't equal 2 and the only other value is 1, then it just basically skips over that and runs that. So that's like putting that down there, but of course we can't put that down there, because if we did, then you wouldn't have it right here, because right here it would equal 0 still. Alright, and then we come down and print out the current total is. Now something to keep in mind here is if this dice never gets rolled, so if we do not do anything in this if statement, the value of die 2 is going to continue to be 0 throughout this entire loop. Meaning that when you get down here, you're only going to be adding this one. So if we put in a 1, which we're going to do on this first loop, we're only going to get the value of die 1. So this would be like, say 0 plus, we'll say we rolled a 3 plus 0. And then on the next one, it would be 3 plus, and we'll say we rolled a 4 plus 0. So this will be 0 all the time, this die 2. All right. However, if we put in a 2 up there, then this would run, and of course then you would have the value of die 1 and die 2. All right. So let's go ahead and run this with one dice to start. Save it, and how many dice? 1. Players, we'll say 2. And we'll say Selena and Dwayne. All right, so it's Selena's turn. Once again, there's nothing to stop this. So it's just going to go through, but it should only roll die 1 and print out you rolled a for each roll and then give us the value. Because remember, this is going to be 0 the entire time. So it'll just be K plus the first die. All right, so we rolled. We get 104. All is good. And that means we're over our win score, if you remember how all this works up here. So we were at 99, which lets you know that, okay, we're at 99. We're still under or less than win score. So it let us roll again, gave us a 5, which was 104. So if we go back up to the top, started off, just rolled a 4. Total was 4 because it said 4 plus, 0 plus 4 plus 0. And then we rolled a 6. Well, now this is 4 because remember we incremented it up here. And then added that, wound up with 10. Okay, now we have a 10. That's the value of K. Add 3 to that, 13, so on and so forth on down the line. And then it kicks us out once we get to our high score. Lets us go to our second player. So Dwayne rolls, and he winds up with 102. And as you can see, we were at 96. Added 6 to that, 102, kicks us out, all is good. And he started off with a 3, and a 3, which gave us 6, then 2, which gave us 8, and then 1 gave us 9, plus 6, 15. And you can follow that down or test it out yourself on your own. All right, so that works with one dice, and you'll notice it says you rolled a, so it jumps right through this if statement to this, you rolled a, and gives you only the value of that first dice. So on this one, when we do 2 dice, it's going to roll the first dice, like I say, automatically, and then it'll roll the second dice now, because we have 2 dice, and then it'll print out you rolled a, and then give us the value of the first and the second dice. All right, so let me go ahead and run this again. We'll run it with 2 dice, 2 players, and we'll say, let's see, who we're going to use on this one. We use Jensen and Cherish. All right, so it's Jensen's turn. He's got a score of 0 because the game just started. He rolls the dice and winds up with 106. All right, he was at 99. Rolled a 4 and a 3 or 7. Gives him 106. All is good. Breaks the loop. All right, but the thing I want you to notice here is in this one, since we have 2 dice, you rolled a 4 and a 3. Current total is 7. And then comes back and rolls a 2 and a 2. So 7 plus 4 is 11. And then a 2 and a 3, so that's 5 more. So 11 plus 5 is 16, and so on and so forth on down the line. And once it gets to 100 or greater than 100, it breaks the loop, all is good. Brings us down to Cherish. And same thing. She's at 97, rolls a 6 and a 1. 7 or 97 plus 7 is 104. And if you look at the top of hers, She starts off with a 3 and a 6, which gives her 9. Then rolls a 4 and a 2, which is 6. So 9 plus 6 is 15. Then rolls 2 5s, so 15 plus 10 is 25, and so on and so forth. All right. So pretty simple. Like I say, that's how you check to see how many dice you're going to play with, and then we're going to go from there. So in the next video, we'll break it down below this, okay, and actually start doing some other if, else statements. All right, because we got to check to see if there's a 1 in the roll. We have to check to see if there's 2 1s, if they're using 2 dice, and so on and so forth. All right, so thanks for watching. Hopefully this is all making sense to you, and we'll see you in the next video.